Welcome to the Multisport Mindset Podcast, a podcast by age group athletes for age group athletes, focused on sharing stories, knowledge, and highlighting success in endurance. My name is Aubrey Hayes, and my co-host is Joshua Gordon. Welcome to our endurance journey. Welcome to the Multisport Mindset Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of endurance sports, training strategies, and the mindset that fuels peak performance. I am Aubrey Hayes, USAT Level 1 coach, age group athlete, and co-founder of Precise Multisport. Today we have Jean-Paul Montréal, a dedicated healthcare professional and lifelong athlete with an impressive journey of service, sportsmanship, and medical excellence. JP, how's it going today?
It's going well, Aubrey. How are you?
Good. So I want to give a brief, you have a very extensive professional and sports career. So this might take a little bit, everybody. Hang on. So after graduating from the University of South Alabama in 1997 with a bachelor's degree in education, JP quickly earned national certification as an athletic trainer, gaining hands-on experience with high schools, physical therapy clinics, and elite running groups like the Joe Vigil Distance Running Team in Colorado. In 1999, he was honored to serve as the athletic trainer for the USA National Cross Country Team at the World Championships in Belfast, Ireland. In 2002, JP took a bold step into the military service, training as a combat medic and LPN in the U.S. Army. From Fort Lewis with 4 surgical teams to deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, he provided critical care in some of the most demanding environments. Never one to stop learning, JP earned both a bachelor's and master's degree in physician assistant studies through the Inter-Service Physician Assistance Program and the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Now, JP currently serves as the physician assistant for the 41st Civil Support Team with the Kentucky National Guard and continues to combine passion and medicine and service to the nation. Beyond his professional achievements, JP has always been a fierce competitor, from running cross country and track in college to completing the grueling Florida Ironman in 2001, excelling in competitive cycling, and most recently, embracing the challenge of amateur Spartan races. Now check out that intro. Everybody, meet Jean-Paul Montréal. We can call him JP for the rest of this podcast for short, but how does it sound when you hear it out loud? Your own bio, because I know typing up your own bio, it's like, oh yeah, but it's pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, I was looking at it, I was like, I mean, I'm old, right? No, I mean, I just, my dad got me into running back when I was like, I don't know, 10 years old. And ever since then, I've just been, love going and, running, cycling, and then made a career out of it, and when I was in college. And then I try to be more competitive, when I was in college. I just didn't have the talent, but I transferred that over to doing athletic training so I could actually, be with the athletes. And that's when I became an athletic trainer, moved to Colorado when I graduated, worked with Joe Vigil over there. He was an Olympic coach for many years. He's a great mentor. So if you ever look him up, he's such a great guy. And so, and I was honored, like I said, to go to the 1999 Belfast Championships with the World Cross Country Team. We had, awesome. Some great athletes on there. It was like, Dina Drawson. She was on the team, and now it's her, Dina Casters now is her name, but she was Dina Drawson at the time. And that was like my pinnacle career when I did athletic training. Then moved to, become joined the military 2002. Became a combat medic, LPN, and I was actually going to go to PT school. That was my end goal, to go to PT school, physical therapy school.
Yeah.
But that didn't pan out, and because my class that I took back in '91, they were too old when I. Over 10 years old. So like, hey, you have to retake. I'm like, I don't retake it. So, and then a recruiter's like, hey, you should probably look into going to PA school. I said, I don't even know what a PA does, right? And so I worked with a PA over there at Fort Lewis for a couple of days. I said, I got this. Most of the stuff was mostly orthopedic in nature. Sure enough, I packed it in, went to, Inter-Service Physician Assistant Program, IPAP. and then you know, it's been great, you know, become a PA in the military. It's a huge rewarding, you know, I love the job. You know, they talk about what the best job in the military is, being a PA. And I
Yeah.
realized after I joined the National Guard, the best job in the military is to be a CST
Yeah,
PA
man.
because
Yeah, for some of y'all that don't know what that is, it's a CST's a civil support team with the National Guard, do like hazmat response essentially, like white powder incidents. So small
yeah,
man teams get to
yeah,
do some awesome stuff.
yeah. So I mean, we get great training, and then I get to work. I mean, on the side time, I do moonlighting, working at a occupational health urgent care clinic too. So yeah,
Yeah.
basically working two jobs.
Nice. Yeah, I know. Like, so you go to work essentially with the military all day, and then usually in the evenings you go and do moonlighting, right? I remember those days, like when we worked together,
Yeah,
you were saying, "Oh yeah, I worked at the clinic last night," and you like running on a couple hours of sleep a day. So man, that's
yeah,
tough. And then
yeah,
on top of all that, like having a pretty awesome background in sports yourself. And I know recently you moved to doing Spartan races. How's that been going?
yeah.
What's the transition from like specifically doing endurance? Some people argue Spartan's endurance. It is. It's an aspect of it, but adding in the strength concept of Spartan racing.
So, you know, for I was always a runner, and then I got into cycling for a number of years, cyclocross, road racing. You know, did really well in that category three. Nothing crazy, but you know, that was in my mid 40s at the time. And
Yeah.
then but I was sort of having a lot of back problems. Like I don't know if it could have been like the way I was fitted on the bike, and the work. It's just I had SI joint problems, and so I had to transition to more strength training, kettlebells, stuff like this. And so I kind of gave up the cycling. I would do it every now and then, go for like a weekend ride, 20, 30 miles here and there, but I can't just do it over and over again. It just kills my back. And so
Yeah.
when I started doing more the kettlebell stuff, and then I was like, well, these Spartan races look pretty cool, and so I did I did a 10K one. It was in Nashville. I just did the one in Vermont last fall. And that was a 5K one. It was crazy hilly. It was at, you know, Killington uh, ski resort over there, and it's a monster. It's a beast over
Yeah.
there. So anyway, yeah. So the transition allows me to, you know, work out more, and my back's feeling way better doing this because I have more of a variety of
Hmm.
workouts. So
Nice. And that is a great transition into my first real question I have for you, and that is, how does strength training play into endurance sports and essentially like injury prevention? Because and you can even say recovery in your aspect. Like I think adding some of that strength work and maybe staying off the bike help too. There's a compounding interest there. But how does that strength training help prevent further injury and actually help you become stronger in the endurance sports arena?
So I think it came down to doing more core strength. Like I had a lot of leg strength, obviously from cycling, and my upper body strength was okay. It wasn't great. My core strength, my back strength was suffering. You know, between doing a lot more core strength, kettlebells, it helped just help me just I had the right treatment on there too. Dry needling, did a lot of dry needling on my back too. It helped me recover. And then over time, you know, I noticed that if I didn't do certain workouts, like with kettlebells, I'm not a, you know, I don't know, I'm not a kettlebell expert, but I'll just say there's certain exercises that I do that are just, they help me. If I don't do them, then after a couple of days, if I don't do it after a couple of days, then I can feel my back starts to just ache. So that strength training, you have to keep on moving. You have to keep it up, you know. And you talk about your back strength, you know, there's different type of muscles, right? You got your fast twitch and you got your slow twitch fibers, right?
Yeah.
And so like the core strength and your abs, your back, that's more of a slow twitch to keep you upright. And it's not like your quads or your chest, or your biceps or your calves where you just sprint very fast, stuff like that. But so yeah, so that's what I mean by, so as far as to answer your question regarding strength training, to help injury prevention, I think it's so important, especially the legs. Uh, I never did really know much about hex bar squats. Uh, and because I do regular squats like that, but that would hurt my back. But hex bar squats, I know what it is. It must be the position, must be the ankle. Uh, I have a lot more success, a lot more, I can actually do a better workout doing hex bar squats for me than doing regular squats. Because,
Yeah.
squatting takes a lot of technique too. So,
Yeah, a lot of technique, and then you get a lot of pressure on that lower back. And then
hmm
especially if you don't have a lot of core strength, where you don't really know how to engage the core and stay like in a sturdy position, chest up, shoulders back, core engaged. And it's just like running. If you get a little fatigued, you start losing form, and then you don't want to lose form on a heavy squat or deadlift because you're essentially, putting all of that strain on your lower backs. Yeah, it means a lot
yeah,
to.
yeah, and like you say, like you made a good point. Form is a huge technique. I mean, back when I was running high school, I was a big heel striker, and then I had a good coach in college, and he was more into the biomechanics and kinesiology, and he actually helped me change my running stride to where I was running more on the flat part of my foot versus heel striking, and it
Yeah.
changed everything. So injuries, shin splints, yeah.
It's crazy you mentioned that because I think a lot of athletes, if you were to go to anywhere now, the big thing or any coach you're going to hear is like cadence, cadence, cadence. And I feel like it's become just one of those like key words that coaches say now, like increase your cadence. And there's so much more to it, like where your foot's landing. I would like for you, that's good. And it probably took time for you to change that, right? It wasn't like an immediate change to like 4 foot running
Oh,
from
it
hill.
took me a whole year. It took me a whole year. So my first year of running cross country at South Alabama, I had a coach. He was big on mileage. We were doing like 90 to 100 miles a week. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah,
then
that's
and
wild.
then and yeah, then I was still doing the heel striking, shin splints. I was
Hmm.
surprised I didn't get a stress fracture, to be honest with you. But then I got a new coach, and he wasn't big on to the whole uh, mileage thing. He was more into like heart rate, and then talk about technique. He was doing that back in the day where he would actually do it based on your heart rate, and it was wild because early on when I'm trying to keep up with everyone else, my heart rate would probably be like 80, 90%, which is so bad because you just wear yourself out. You're doing that, a couple days a week. But
Yeah,
now
for
you say the
sure.
trend is now you keep you talk about these different zones and stuff like that. And so so yeah, I mean, I would, so anyway, he taught me how to change my running stride.
Hmm.
He gave us a series of drills. We do a series of drills every time we go for a run. In the morning runs and the afternoon runs, we do these series of drills, and you still people see you using them all the time. The one leg drills, the calf raises, the high knees, the backwards running, the karaoke's. Those are all
Yeah.
ways to help your body stay upright when you run, right?
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
so yeah, I mean that's helped me, but it took me a good year to finally fix it, and I don't have shin splints anymore. So.
Nice. Yeah. I started introducing like a lot of the A skips and things like that into my running, and actually a lot of like plyometrics more recently, doing some jumping action because I had a kinesiologist that I went and did a run analysis with. He did focus a little bit on cadence, and I'm okay with that because I went from like, but this took me 3 or 4 years. I started at like 148 steps per minute, which is not good. And my hips and my knees were always hurting because I was like stretching and planting my heel. And I think after 4 years, I'm up to 172 steps per minute. But it took time, and it took doing those drills, took doing some plyometrics. But one thing he really mentioned about it was when you, um, when you do those jumping actions, you're teaching your muscles and your legs to continue moving after making contact with the ground, right? So you want to
Yeah.
have like some of those like I hope I'm not saying it right, but like reactionary kind of jumps. So like doing some like high jumps and then hitting the ground and immediately reloading and coming back up and not letting all of that force settle and then now you're recreating force. So
Mhm.
I thought that was a pretty cool aspect of it and that helped me. But again, like I think it's very important. Like you said, it took you a year under like a a professional coach essentially 50 to 100 miles a week of getting after it. And, me 4 or 5 years to increase mine and get into better running. So I think one of the biggest takeaways I give for people on here is like, don't expect it to happen next week. So
No,
I've had a
no. I
couple
mean, you'll feel
athletes
a
that are like, I got
difference.
to increase.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I think one way that, to really see how you're running, you go into a big field, grassy field, and you run with shoes on, and you take your shoes off and you run with shoes off, and you'll run completely different.
yeah,
Completely different. So you used to just, everyone's used to the shoes that they're wearing. So, but you run barefoot, um, there's something about it, uh, it just helps you run more naturally. And then when you heel, I mean, you're not going to be striking the ground with your bare heels. You'll be kind of come
mm,
more on the soles of your feet or the bottom or the front of the feet, and then
right.
it's just a constant turnover.
So, kind of leading into the next question I have for you, and it just made me think of it. So, when you ran in college,
Hmm.
obviously there's more to running. So, you're in college, stressful environment. I would venture to say, like most people that are listening to this now have busy lives, family. So they have a lot of stress in their life on top of training. I kind of want to look at the how like cortisol and like stress hormones basically from training and life events, how they can really affect your training and did they affect you back in college? Maybe you weren't that into it then, but now looking back.
Well, I think we're younger, 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. I mean, your body can take a ton of, you can live off of 2 hours of sleep and just over, it's crazy
Yeah.
how. And I think as you get older, is that your body needs to recover. I mean, I think I started really getting into the whole idea of melatonin back my last year in college. That's when like in 90, 95, 96, and that's the melatonin. They said, hey, it has more of a benefit. It more has a use the word anabolic benefit because it helps you recover very quickly. I don't know if that's true or not, but I bought it at the time because I was all about, hey, I want to get better, I want to get better. So,
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, I think so. Yeah, your cortisol will, basically when you wake up in the morning, your cortisol is up because it helps you wake up, and it's just like it's like your body's natural steroid, and it actually gives you the energy. But if you're kind of going all day, and and then you go into the night, you don't get much sleep, your body doesn't recuperate very well. Um, so yeah, I think it's important to just, I'm realizing more and more every year how important sleep is. It is, I can't tell you how important it is.
Would
I
you
mean,
would you say
I mean,
age has a play on that one?
yeah, yeah. But I mean, if I go like, if I go to bed like 12 and then I get 6 hours, I'm okay, but it's really not optimal. If I get, 8 hours, that's more optimal for me. I don't know. I just think that sleep is important, strength training is important, and obviously hydration and eating right too. So,
Right. So essentially, like, yeah, because I know 6 hours. I'm so bad about this. I get maybe 6.5 hours a night, and it's because of work, trying to fit in workouts, family, and then doing this and coaching and stuff like that. So I kind of cut myself short sometimes. On the weekends, I get about 8 hours, but I try to get as
hmm.
quality of sleep as I can in those 6.5 hours. And something that really helps me is obviously electrolytes, and then taking magnesium, um, some different like fish oils and stuff like that help the body recover. But if you don't, like what you're saying is if you don't sleep well, the cortisol levels essentially just don't come down, and you're just building on that cortisol, right? And those stress hormones.
Yeah, the stress hormones are just it'll wear you out because like if you get up in the morning, and you probably heard this before, like if you get up in the morning, you take your heart rate, right? And then if for some reason, say your heart rate's already 50, 50, 50, but it starts to climb up to uh 90 to 100 every morning you wake up, well, that's a sign that you're either overtraining for one, or you just burning candles at both ends. You have to like find a way to schedule the rest that you need, or you're just training too much. Some people like, hey, I'm gonna try to get like 2 workouts today. And, I mean, you're a coach, you know how people are about. I mean, they're like they're trying to make up for the time they wish they could have
Yeah, you
worked out the
can't do
day
that.
before.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
my biggest pet peeve, I think, with coaching. Not to get off track, is like if you missed yesterday, yesterday's gone. It's gone. Move forward. Like, we're not gonna make it up because
exactly.
all you're gonna do is put yourself behind the eight ball. And like you said, we're gonna build those stress hormones up even more. And then you worrying about it is gonna compound that. And
That's exactly
hey,
right.
look, it's gone.
Exactly right.
We're gonna focus on today's workouts and we're gonna move on. That's it. And
Right.
I have fallen
Right.
victim to that too. Like when you're deep into a block and you have a big goal, you're like, no, 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 I got to get those hours in. And sometimes,
Hmm.
like sometimes I miss workouts because I'm like, nope, my body's off. I use HRV, which could probably be like heart rate variability, which probably be a sign
Okay.
of like cortisol differences as well. Like, so if my HRV is really low, I know that for me, like my baseline's around like 55. Anything below 55, I can feel it. Like I wake up and before I even check, I'm like, yep, it's probably low today, and it'd be like in the 30s or 20s, which is means that maybe my cortisol levels are up. I've overtrained, like you said, I've stressed myself. There's tools to look at it, but I like the heart rate thing you're saying. Get up, check your heart rate, and just see where you're at, and that could be a good way to analyze what that cortisol is. So would it be safe to
Yeah, and
say,
then not only that, I mean, not only that, I would say, cortisol is one thing. You gotta make sure you think about thyroid. Thyroid is another hormone that controls your metabolism, makes you tired if you don't have enough thyroid, or makes you super hyper, or you lose weight when you have too much thyroid. Typically, like when the guys come to the team and they get their physical, I check your thyroid, I check your cholesterol, blood, chemistry levels, stuff like this. But thyroid is important. I think when you go see, say, a physician and you talk about, hey, I may be overtraining, I may be not feeling well, uh, I'm always checking thyroid. I mean, thyroid, if you get your thyroid level first, and then, or at least you get an idea what your thyroid's doing, and then
mhm,
everything else will kind of fall behind that. So, and then obviously you got your electrolytes and then, your blood levels and, you're basically your iron levels and stuff like that too. I mean, it's just good when especially triathletes, you start doing a lot of training. I think it's good to get a baseline set of labs on people and just, hey, let's get all this stuff done. That way you're not like, you can't, for some reason that a person is having trouble either losing weight or their goal is to, maybe they're tired all the time. It could be a thyroid thing, or something else. So,
or something else? Yeah, something that a lab could probably figure out, right? Do you think there's an
hmm
age
yeah.
like hey, at this age you should definitely be getting labs, or do you think most people should probably go get labs prior to starting like a big adventure like an Ironman for the first time?
Yeah, I think everyone. I don't think there's any. There's definitely the age is like 40 is when you want to start doing most of your cardiac labs. But I mean, it wouldn't. It's no harm in doing one on someone who's young and
Yeah.
20, 25, 30 years old. If you just get a set of labs, they'll kind of know what your baseline level is. And then you can actually use that baseline level, when you get older, say you do it 5 years later, 10 years later, you say, oh, this is my thyroid then, this is my cholesterol is then, then, you can sort of follow them throughout the years. I mean, not you, but the athlete, with this doctor or stuff like this. So,
Yeah, they're their primary care or physician and things like that. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is good advice, and I fall victim to that too. I haven't really done it since I left the team. It's just one of those things took for granted when I was on CST with you guys, is having the ability to do that. So there's some things actually here at the Star Majors Academy. They do a senior health assessment, senior enlisted health assessment. So
Okay.
they run us all through labs essentially because they want us to go back out to the formation healthy and ready to
hmm
take on the challenges that come with being a senior leader in the military. So this is the
So
year,
you're
like
talking.
everybody.
So you're
What's
saying
that?
they do like they say you do like a senior health like a senior like PHA type thing, like periodic health assessment, or is it like or a full lab they do? I mean, did you see a
No, they did
physician?
full lab, PHA obviously, and then
Mm.
you're doing they did a HRV, they do VO2 max test, they do full blood
Oh, okay,
panels,
okay.
all the above, and then yeah, just make sure everybody's healthy and get on tracks. It's really
That's
good.
good.
And when I leave here, I'll probably continue to do that because I know how much it's helped me actually improve my fitness. Some things I got to focus on while I was here. So, um, yeah, and overall health. Obviously, overall health is the most important, but I have this mindset of like I just want to work out a lot. So, but yeah, whatever. I meant to say overall health first, everybody. Okay. So, with that, you start. Obviously, we've talked about the physical component and the hormones. How big does nutrition play into it? And I guess a broad answer is obviously we know nutrition plays into performance and injury prevention. But what are some of the things that you've seen, and maybe some of the things that you've practiced as an athlete and a physician assistant?
So I think generally speaking, I think that most people that I run into, even myself, I just was not taking in enough protein. I mean, I think that was very key, you know, because yeah, you need your carbs, especially when you do this distance, but you got to have that protein there too. And it's actually not, you know, it's not an easy thing to do. You think about, you know, people generally say that. I think it's like point. I think it's point. I don't know. It's under under 1 gram of protein per, you know, body weight. But I like to do, you know, 1 gram of protein per body weight. So if I'm 145 pounds, yeah, try to do 145 grams of protein a day. Try to break it up in like, you know, maybe 40 at a time. It's hard to get all that, right? Once you figure out, okay, eggs and chicken, and then you have to add probably supplement with some type of, you know, protein shakes like this. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I was not doing. And then when I started to actually increase my protein, uh, you could see the difference. You know, you could see the difference. Uh, you know, just it's just everything's, you know, because you'll be able to, you know, you had all the building block that's there to help recover and to help build those muscles again. So,
Yeah, I can definitely say personally, I feel it too. Putting in more
mhm.
protein lately because I'm lifting a lot more as well as doing cardiovascular, working on those endurance events. But it's helped me. I actually feel more recovered after I do my workouts in the morning with more protein I take in.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and yeah, they say like, you know, when you get your protein within about a half an hour after you did a good workout, but that's for the, you know, if you're an unconditioned athlete, that's the time frame you want to do it. Once you're sort of conditioned athlete like yourself, as long as you get the protein, it doesn't have to be that 30-minute window. As long as you get it within a couple of hours, you're fine. I mean, as long as you stick to your routine and get your protein in, then you could, you know, then you can recover a lot easier. So that's the theory. So
But yeah, when it comes to nutrition, so we kind of talked about the protein. Obviously, having like a all-around diet is good. But I would venture to say that most endurance athletes just think I've got to get carbs in, and they start throwing down like Hostess cakes and pizza and stuff like that, and then you get and hopefully it doesn't offend anybody, but you start to see like the skinny fat athletes. You know what I mean? Like they're just everything they eat is going to their waistline or their hips.
hmm hmm
I always tell people there's two things my mama gave me is her personality and her hips. You know, it's probably from carbs. But uh, love you, mom. Um, and but yeah, so it kind of matters on what those sources of nutrition come from, right? Like you can't just shove anything and everything down your system. I mean, what's your thought process on that when it comes to fueling?
So, so like protein, I mean, you get a lot more you get a lot more bang for the buck when you eat meat, you know,
Mhm.
protein versus plant-based protein. I mean, usually you have to get a ton of plant-based protein in order for you to get the right. So it's when you think about complex carbs versus the simple carbs, something like, you know, like I say, a Twinkie bar or a Coke, something like that. It's got
Yeah.
tons and tons of sugar in it, lots of calories, but I mean, it has its place, right? I mean, there's nothing I love more than a can of Coke after you do a hard ride after 50 miles. You feel like you're about to bonk. It's something about it. I love it. So
Yeah, it's like the most refreshing thing on earth is a soda.
it is.
It makes no sense, but I love it.
Yeah, I think it's just the sugar, the carbonation, and whatever. It's just, and it's cold. Yeah, it feels good. So yeah, I think I think you want to make sure you eat, obviously the vegetables. You got to get your vegetables in and protein, whether it be the chicken or lamb or steak or some of those things on there. And then a lot of the carbs come from sodium. Not sodium. A lot of carbs come from like breads. All kinds
Yeah.
of breads out there. So I'm not saying cut your carbs. I mean, it depends on. I'm not a nutritionalist at all. I'm not a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
dietitian, whatever. So, but I just know basic stuff when it comes to. They don't really teach us that in PA school, and but I'll say that I just learned over time that you can feel the difference when you eat like crap
Mhm.
versus you eat good. So if I go to McDonald's, I mean, it feels good when you eat it, but man, you feel like crap afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can
Yeah.
use it, but I mean, otherwise, if you find a good place that has fresh veggies, like over here, there's a place called Corritos, and it's good. You have like a Mediterranean. You have the cucumbers and salad, and with a rice and chicken and hummus. Yum! I love it. I love like the protein bowls. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah, big old protein bowls. We try to make those at home.
Yeah.
The wife makes them every once in a while. It's like this massive like, lettuce bowl with all the proteins, plant, meat,
Yeah.
protein. Oh, absolutely love it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and you feel good afterwards, right? It's
Yeah, yeah, you're like,
so.
man, that wasn't so bad, and I feel full. Yeah, it's crazy how that works, but sometimes the easy button is nice, like a good Taco Bell run never does you wrong, you know? Uh, I don't know, man. It just
I hear you. I
sometimes
hear
it
you.
comes
So,
a
and
calling, you know?
yeah, it does. Between that, a Chick-fil-A, or
Ugh.
yeah, whatever. So,
Mm-hmm. Wow. So when, yeah, man, I love some Chick-fil-A too. All right. So with
so
that,
do I.
when it comes to endurance sports, obviously you've dabbled a little bit of everything, and your family's been in endurance sports, and you guys have I think touched every end of the spectrum for it. There's some things that you're very passionate about in endurance sports, or something that if you could bring up or ever just like elevator pitch about endurance sports, what would that be?
I think having a good coach would be very important. I think, like, say for instance, my daughter, right? My daughter Faith, and she was an incredible cyclist. She was on the, USA cross, I don't know, USA team, the junior team. She went to Europe and she did it. She loved it, but she did not want to coach. She was never a coach at all.
Man, that's wild. Yeah, I remember seeing her ride. I'm like, dang, I never knew she didn't have a coach.
She never had a coach. I mean, there had some people kind of helped her out, and she would ask the questions, but she would always go on these group rides, and she would get offers all the time. Say, "Hey, I want to coach you. I want to coach you," and she said, "I want to do. I want to be coach." Because I think her heart wasn't in it, and that's
Mm,
fine. I'm cool with it. But I mean, she
yeah,
she was an incredible athlete, and then COVID happened. She said, Dad, I'm done being. I'm done cycling. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I mean, I can't. She was I think 18 at the time or 17. And so say if you don't like to do it, then just give it up. But um, no, I would say that I would say that coaching is very important because it puts you on the right schedule. Whether you look at books or something to get you on schedule. Because if you just sort of like dabble this and there, dabble, you're not gonna meet your goals. I don't know, and then you end up injuring yourself. So I think a coach just makes you more accountable and it gives you the right schedule and yeah, and gives you someone that can encourage you. So
yeah.
I think coaching is important.
I agree, and I would like to add to that is like, not every coach is going to bond with you as well or mesh with you as well. So finding the coach
Hmm.
that your personalities match, or that the way they're coaching matches what you're looking for. Because I think a lot of athletes probably get out there and they get a coach and like, well, I got to stick with it. Well, if that relationship isn't working, it's never going to work. Or if their style of coaching doesn't seem like it's working for you at all, don't be afraid to say, hey, I need to cut ties. I got to find a different coach. So
Yeah.
I think that's just as important. I know I've stuck with coaches before myself, and I felt like I was getting nothing out of it at times. And that might be a time like you just need to change. You need to change the what you're getting out of that coach, or you need to change how your training is laid out, or the type of intensity you're getting from training to maybe improve a little more. So sometimes,
Yeah.
1 or 2 years, okay, or a couple months, like this doesn't work. All right, I gotta find somebody else. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it works really well for like it works good for like, cycling or cross country or running, those type of sports. It works well. Like I remember in college, right? You get there, you have the coach. He's the
yeah,
coach
that's it.
because you're stuck with him, right? And then
Yeah,
and you had to deal with it. But I mean, a lot of times people during the summer would go out to their old coaches that they had either in high school or maybe they met through some camps and stuff like this, and they would get coach to them. But then when they came to the back to university, then they stuck to the same coach. Yeah, I remember coaching my daughter for cross country. She did cross country for a number of years, and she did well. That's the one thing she took to the coaching. She took to coaching when she did cross country, and I think
yeah.
she knew that I was a cross country runner and I was a runner, and then she soaked it up. So she did really well in that too.
That makes sense. Like when your kids know what you did, they kind of want to emulate that. And because like
Hmm.
I had no interest in wrestling, because I wrestled all the way through middle school and high school, but I had no interest. And they kept like mentioning at school, like, oh, wrestling, you want to come try out? And then I brought it up at home one day, and my dad was like, oh, I wrestled, right? Like I went to state, and I was like, no way. And then all of a sudden I was like, I want to wrestle. And it became like, I did other sports too, like soccer and cross country and stuff, but wrestling was my thing. All it took was my dad just saying I wrestled, and he showed me some pictures from like I think 1968, and I was
Nice.
like, I'm in, I'm doing this.
I
Yeah,
know. I know. I
it's
mean,
weird how that
you
works,
were
right?
coaching. Yeah, you were coaching here, right? Which you were coaching in Louisville, the wrestling.
Yeah, I coached at a local high school there in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a
Okay.
Louisville Male High School. Yeah,
Yeah.
I coached there for like 10 or 11 years as an assistant coach. Yeah, I loved it. Actually, I got more deep into the sport when I started coaching. Like I was in it. But when we moved to the DC area, and then out here, I haven't had time to coach, and we had our own kid, and so maybe, hopefully, he'll get into wrestling or something, and I'll try my best not to coach. I don't want to be, but it's probably gonna happen. It's probably gonna happen. Uh,
It's yeah, I would say that, when you have a child, a son or daughter, and you want to just like you wanted to give them everything that you had, and it's so easy. I could go see it was so easy for me to like get all hyped up and like,
hmm
hey, you gotta do this, gotta do that, and I was like, okay, I need to back off. And so, um, I'm you learn just you sort of check in with with your kids, say, hey, am I doing too much? I want to encourage you at the same time, not trying to pressure you and make you feel obligated to do the sport. Oh,
Yeah. I
yeah.
had a buddy that was having problems with that. His kid was running cross country, and he would go to practice with them and run with them, and the kid was just like, "Can you stop?" Like, I was telling him, like, yeah, man, it's time for you to be dad and let the coach be coach. Like, he's young, he's trying to build a friend, circle. So it may feel like awesome to you, but to them, they want you to be dad, not the
Yeah,
cross
yeah,
country coach. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I exactly agree.
So last question, then I'm gonna let you off the hook. All right.
Okay.
So any advice? So open whatever advice you want to give to older athletes getting into endurance sports, because I think lately we see a lot of there's I don't know if it's just because I'm in it, but lately it seems like there's a lot of older individuals getting into endurance sports lately, mainly like running and triathlon. What kind of advice would you give them?
Start slow for sure. And then also recover. So I think it takes you a little bit longer to recover from a hard workout. I mean, you could probably only get, 2 workouts in a week, high intensity stuff in there. And the rest of the days, you just got to recover. Like for cycling, it may seem kind of boring when you're on the road and just whatever and doing all this like zone two type stuff. And that's so important. And
Yeah.
then you got to have like that 15% of doing high intensity stuff during the week. But you got to make sure you have enough time to recover. I mean, when you're young, you can recover very fast and everything, right? So I would just say that, make sure that you're recovering. Um, and if obviously if you want to feel after you do the strength training, you want to feel sore afterwards, hydration is very key. But definitely I would say the recover so you can actually, you know, you can actually benefit from the actual workout you did, and then you can move to the next one and do that one and recover. I think recover would probably be the best thing for the older athletes. I know that for me, like every now and then, at work we've been doing the Murph like once a month.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It is. I mean, it's strenuous, but yeah, I mean, usually after I do that Murph, I can get about 2 days off because I'm fried. I'm fried. So
Yeah. I would venture to say most people are, but yeah, I get it where you have to like it takes a little more um as you get older. And I'm not as old as you, but even at 36, 37, I have to if I have some hard workouts, I may take an easy day. And I always schedule.
hmm
We talked about this a couple podcasts ago, like building a basic triathlon plan is scheduling a rest day every week, kind of like those micro rests through your
yeah, of
training
course.
plan, and then every month having a active recovery week. So 3 weeks on, 1 week of active recovery, and I think it's so important. And I'm glad you brought that up because old and young athletes don't feel like, oh, well, if I recover, if I have an easy week, I'm losing fitness. No, that's the time that you absorb it, and that's the time that your body adapts, and that's when you get better. Like sleep and
hmm
recovery is the only way to get better. Like, because we're tearing our body down when we work out. And if you
hmm
never repair it in your sleep, like all the aspects that we've talked about here through like nutrition, through strength training, clearing
hmm
stress hormones from your body through sleep. Like if you don't do that, you're gonna flatline essentially. You're gonna become pretty stagnant in the environment.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that's great. I like that advice, and I hope everybody takes it. I'm sure everybody's heard it 1,000 times, but maybe this one time will make you take a rest day. So, but
Well, no, I
hey
mean
JP,
it's
I,
it
I want to
is it
thank
is
you.
no, no, it's very important. I mean, I realize that. I mean, now I know I try to work out something every day. I usually have like a Sunday off or Saturday off, whatever, for me. And like you just can't. I mean, like I say, active recovery. Um, like my former coach, he talked about how these microcycles or mesocycles, like every month, or you take like a week of active recovery, and then during the year you
Yeah,
take an active like 2 week recovery. So anyway,
nice. No, for sure. So, man, I want to thank you, JP, for joining us. It's been an absolute honor to have someone so
yeah,
experienced, knowledgeable, and accomplished, not only as an athlete, but as a working profession. And I want to thank you for your service to the military, to this country. I know you've put in a lot of years. How many years are you at now, JP?
23, 23.
23 years of service. It's appreciated, man. And if nobody tells you today, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And
I mean, you're still in the thick of it, you too.
yeah, yeah,
Sergeant Major.
yeah. One day in a couple months, maybe I might be a SAR major. Yeah. So, but yeah. So to close out, guys, I just if you ever want to reach out and you have some questions, you guys can submit questions at precisemultisport@gmail.com or at www.precisemultisport.com/contact us. There's also a little link under this podcast that says text us here. You can click on that and you can shoot it by text and we'll get your message from there. Make sure you click the follow button here on the podcast as well as YouTube. And if you're in the running for a coach, all PM coaches are taking on new athletes. So just reach out at our website under
Nice.
services and shoot us a message. Thanks again, JP, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, we'll see you.
Thank you all for joining the Multisport Mindset Podcast. Click that follow button and join us every Wednesday for a new episode. Make sure to visit the team website at www.precisemultisport.com. Follow on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube. We will see you next week.